What's up, everyone? Welcome, everyone. It is Andrew here from Apple Insider. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. And again, welcome to a new weekly series here on Apple Insider that we're calling This Week in Apple. And basically, it's a news roundup show that covers everything in Apple news that you need to know from the preceding week. So we're literally just going to hit the topics that we have covered on Apple Insider, breaking them down a little bit, give a little bit of insight alongside those headlines, and of course provide a bunch of links if you guys want to explore further any of the topics that we touch on in this show. And before we get into the actual meat of the news itself, I just want to say thank you. We've grown this channel solidly over the years, and I wanted to be able to do something that was in a serialized format that you guys could come back to each and every week, every Friday, and pick up the news. I know not everyone has time to read through all the headlines, and there's a lot of stuff that slips through the cracks. And I know there's a lot of podcasts, and there are choices out there, so if you were hanging with us, if you're coming back and watching every Friday, thank you. Thank you already for doing that. So let's go ahead and dive into, we've got a lot of topics for this week. We picked a hell of a week to start this thing off, but there's a lot of news. We're going to talk about some new changes in Apple TV Plus, some new stuff that's debuted, a bunch of new hardware rumors from Apple TVs to HomePods to the iPhone 13. Then, of course, we're going to talk about general news, some changes to Apple Fitness Plus. We're going to talk about the Apple event and a few other breaking news items from the week. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First things first, let's talk about Apple TV Plus. I know not everyone watches Apple TV Plus, but as Apple continues to put more money and effort into this, I think it's worth talking about at least for a few moments. So first, a new report has come out. They've done an analysis of IMDb ratings and everything else, and they have scoured the content from all the major providers, Netflix, Hulu, everything like that. And Apple TV Plus has come out on top with the highest rated content. Now, that does not mean highest subscriber base by any means, but it does mean that Apple's putting out some quality stuff. So if you've not checked out any of Apple's shows at all, be sure to take a look at what they've been doing. There's a lot of really neat stuff out there. Now, as far as other content goes, Apple has a new documentary coming out called Fathom, where a pair of scientists try to discover why whales sing. That could be really interesting. There's a new season of Tiny World and Earth at Night in Color. Those dropped today, Friday the 15th, 16th, Friday the 16th. I already have my dates wrong, guys. That's not a good start to this. But both of those seasons 2 dropped today, so that is new. Earlier this week, Apple released a new documentary, The Year the Earth Changed, which takes a look at the past year during the pandemic and how it essentially gave the Earth a much-needed break. We also have a new short film coming on Apple TV Plus soon called Blush, which is a partnership with Skydance Animation, the first partnership there. And wrapping up the Apple TV Plus news, a new episode of Mythic Quest drops today. I think it's called Everlight, and this is a new kind of one-off special before Season 2 starts, and it's about the crew coming back to work at the office. I love Mythic Quest. It might be my favorite show on Apple TV Plus, so I'm excited. I'm going to go finish this up, and I'm going to go watch that episode. So if you guys watch it, let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter, because I want to know what you guys think. Anyway, let's move on to hardware rumors, probably one of everyone's most favorite topics in the news. It easily leads, our highest rated articles of the week, and we got some stuff to talk about. So first up is a new report. Some people who are familiar with the project and work on the project have spoken to Bloomberg about a new Apple TV device that incorporates a camera in a HomePod style speaker. I think this is really, really interesting. Essentially, it kind of sounds to me almost like a sound bar. Kind of like that compact Roku device that has a speaker built in, but essentially an Apple TV interface, everything you'd expect from an Apple TV, but put a camera in there so you can take FaceTime calls from the living room, a la Facebook Portal, but without all those, security and privacy concerns. But yeah, FaceTime camera right there in an Apple TV and a sound bar. I think a lot of people have used HomePods for their Apple TV speakers. So I think it's really interesting for Apple just to incorporate it in there. And Apple seems to understand that people are using HomePods with their Apple TVs because the regular full-size, now discontinued HomePod could be set as a default speaker for Apple TVs and just automatically default to that every time with a fairly recent update. So Apple seems to know that, and it makes sense they're kind of building that speaker in there. So I think that's a really cool, interesting device, definitely coming to kind of compete more head-on with Sonos, which already has its, plenty of soundbars out there between the Beam and the Arc and all the previously discontinued Sonos speakers. Now it's time to talk about the iPhone. A lot of rumors have come out this week. We heard a few different things, all kind of, some have reinforce rumors that we've already heard, and other ones are newer in general. So Ming-Chi Kuo, fan of the analyst, he's come out and said there's going to be a new 48 megapixel camera, which is going to support 8K video. Now, a quick note on that 8K video. I know a lot of people are out there saying, why would I care about 8K video? But even 48 megapixels, the thing that you're going to care about most is the ability to zoom without losing quality. So if you are shooting, at a lower resolution, and then you try to zoom in, you're stretching the image and you're losing resolution. So you're going to lose quality in what you're shooting. But by increasing that megapixel count, the pixel count of the camera, you're able to zoom in at lossless quality. So we're going to see, it sounds like, some digital zoom options that are going to be essentially lossless when you're shooting at things like 4K and 1080. That's going to be really cool. I mean, imagine being able to zoom in like 6x or 6 times on 1080p video without losing any quality whatsoever, or even 4x on 4K. So I'm excited about this. As someone who shoots video a lot, this is pretty awesome. So new 48 megapixel sensor there, or wide angle sensor there with 8K video support. Also, Quo says the Mini is dead. The iPhone 13 Mini gone. Won't be coming out. I don't know if it ever existed or not, but we have heard that the Mini sales of the 12 have not been great. It seems like, the Pro Max has been, doing gangbusters over here, and the Mini has just been kind of floundering a little bit. So I could definitely see Apple shying away from the Mini in an updated version. So we're hearing that from Quo. Some new 3D printed mock-ups from leaked schematics have pointed to a slightly thicker chassis on the newer iPhone 13s coming out. Specifically looking at like the 13 Pro Max, it's going to be about 0.26 millimeters thicker and about 0.2 millimeters maybe for the Pro. So we're going to get slightly thicker bodies. I mean, a quarter of a millimeter, not really much of a difference. I don't even think you'll notice that in your hands as you hold them. Alongside that, we're going to get slightly readjusted volume rockers, volume buttons on the side. The SIM card tray is also going to be moved a little bit. The camera bump, this is a big deal, I think. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be a lot bigger. It's going to extend an additional 0.9 millimeters, almost an entire millimeter out from what it is now. It's almost about where the camera modules stick out now on the 12, and they're going to go about that for the bump itself, and then, the little camera bumps would go even further. So there's going to be a massive camera bump on like the 12 Pro Max, possibly the 12 Pro. But I mean, if we're talking about that 48 megapixel sensor and some other changes along the cameras, I could see that being a possibility. So those new schematics from Everything Apple Pro are kind of pointing towards that on this new device. We also heard from leakers in just kind of general hardware news, Apple Pencil 3 and AirPods 3 are ready to go, pretty much ready to get out the door. So we could see them possibly at Apple's event. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it in a few. But we could see those sooner rather than later. We've already talked about the Apple Pencil probably coming at the Apple event. AirPods 3, I don't know, but just a new report kind of says these are ready to go. So just keep that in mind. We also seen from a leaker that there are a bunch of new case colors coming. Not a surprise, and Apple kind of does these case drops alongside its events. So with its event coming up, no surprise that while they release all that other hardware, they're going to release their spring line of cases for the iPhone 12 series, all MagSafe enabled, bunch of new pretty colors like cantaloupe. So if you've been holding that for a new Apple branded case for your iPhone 12 series phone, hang out till next week. Apple may got some surprises in store for you. Looking at some more dry news, but we got to touch on it either way. The Judiciary Committee, nope. Andrew, why don't you know your facts before you start recording? You should probably know these things. The House Judiciary Committee has approved its report on big tech that is accusing it of monopolistic behavior. It's including Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all in there saying they have monopolies on various sectors of the economy and that they need to be doing something with it. So this is a months-long investigation. The original report was released back in October of 2020, and now they basically just voted on it, approved it. That's kind of what their doctrine will be going forward as they investigate big tech, including Apple. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and seeing how that progresses as the Judiciary Committee moves further into its investigation. Moving on to general Apple news. So, of course, we have to talk about the Apple event. Huge deal, right? I mean, you guys have been paying attention on the channel, right? Right. You better have been. I covered already a video on what to expect at this event. I don't want to rehash everything that I touched on in that video because it's a whole 10 minutes by itself. So if you are really interested in what to expect and my probabilities and odds for all of those devices, go check that out. I implore you spend a few minutes and watch through that. But the highlights here, the biggest thing is going to be, iPad Pros and AirTags. I think those are going to be the biggest things that we're going to look at here. Again, watch the other video. But it is going to be on April 20th. That's next Tuesday, folks. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time for all of us here on the East Coast of the U.S. Yeah, you can watch it online at apple.com/Apple-events or in the Apple TV app on any of your stuff. Apple likes to have you stream all this so you can watch all of it unfold for yourself. It's going to be a virtual event, nothing in person like Apple had done in the past, very similar to the last events that we've seen from Apple, so a lot of pre-recorded stuff. It'll look pretty slick, I'm sure. Apple also released their 8th round of betas for their upcoming iOS and iPadOS 14.5 update. Here's, of course, updates for Watch and macOS coming too, but the biggest ones that we care about, that you guys care about, that you tell us we care about, is iOS and iPadOS. So we're on 8th betas. Honestly, if you're asking what I think we're gonna get the GM at Apple's event next Tuesday. It's pretty much a week from when we got beta 8. So we're gonna see the GM, the Gold Master, Grandmaster, Release Candidate, RC, whatever you want to call it, but we're going to see that right after that event, and then it's going to be released to the public maybe later next week or the subsequent week after that, depending on when Apple's new devices are set to launch. So keep that in mind. That should be coming very soon. A bunch of cool features there, including being able to unlock your phone while wearing a mask if you got an Apple Watch. It works really well. Be excited for that one, for sure. Apple's also announced its new Restore Fund. So in a partnership with the Conservation International and Goldman Sachs, they are investing $200 million, 200 mil, in new projects that aim to remove at least 1 million metric tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And that's equivalent to about 200,000 vehicles every year. So it's a lot of stuff. It's basically a bunch of reforestry projects that aiming to remove a lot of stuff. Apple's been doing a lot with its environmental impact stuff, and this just makes sense. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of good. So that is going to be coming soon from Apple, Goldman Sachs, and the Conservation International. Phobio. Apple is using Phobio for its trade-ins. So if you've got a device, you buy whatever it is you buy, your Mac, okay? And you go to trade in your Mac and you send it to this company, Phobio. They do an inspection on it and then they will compare it to the trade-in kind of summary that you did beforehand. They give you a quote before you send it in. And if it matches, they give you that amount in a trade-in, and then you can go ahead and use that, credit towards whatever Apple stuff you want to buy. But this week, what's kind of come out is a Verge report, or a report from The Verge, that has accused Phobio of doing some pretty shady stuff. Essentially, people are sending in machines, they're getting one quote for it, they send it into Phobio, and then they come back saying, oh, there's these problems with it. And there'll be things like, oh, there are white spots on the display. And they'll slash these trade-in values by up to half. So the customers will say no, Phobio will ship the devices back to them, and they look at it and there's nothing wrong. They can't see any of these issues for themselves. And one person even sent their device that was told had white spots on the screen from Phobio. They sent this over to The Verge to have them inspect it, and The Verge couldn't see anything either. They were analyzing the display and didn't see any of these issues that Phobio was reporting. So it's something really weird, and there's a lot of other instances. AppleInsider's been following Phobio for a while, and we've never been able to get really any responses from them from anything. And The Verge couldn't get much of that out of them either, other than they're kind of saying they've never, screwed over any of its customers, which is, of course, what it would say. But it's definitely seems like a problem. There's a lot of Better Business Bureau issues with the company, and it's kind of surprising that Apple is trusting them for its trade-ins. So keep that in mind. I've said keep that in mind too many times, haven't I? I should keep that in mind, that I've said keep that in mind too many times. We're in episode 1, people. I don't need to say it that many times. It's too much. Start it over. Cut this out. I'm alone. I'm alone here. Moving on to Apple Fitness Plus. I use this. My wife uses it. It's really awesome. And Apple has been making some new improvements to it. So starting out, there are new workouts for older adults as well as pregnant women. These workouts are about 10 minutes in length. There's a few different kinds of them, including yoga and other ones, but they're really tailored to those specific people, and it's really helpful. So if you've been using this and you fit into any of the situations, you maybe feel like they're a little too high impact, or you are pregnant and you wanted workouts that you know that you can do without issue, take these into consideration. They could very much help you. On top of that, Apple is adding a new trainer to its midst. Janelle Lewis is coming on and doing mindful cool down and yoga workouts. We also have Anya Garcia is going to be doing some new HIIT classes. So we have her. She's been with Apple Fitness Plus for a while since it launched, but now they'll be doing additional classes. Some new HIIT classes will be coming out. There's also a new category, workouts for beginners. So these are going to be HIIT classes, strength training, and yoga. These can be some of the more intimidating classes to join. If you've never done yoga or strength training or HIIT, they can be pretty intense, and maybe you don't want to do those. Maybe they scared you away. So these new ones that are geared towards beginners kind of indoctrinate you into that platform. So those are a new way to kind of get those Apple Fitness workouts in. Looking at HomeKit real quick, we've seen some new things. The Smart Me P1 air purifier launched, and that includes HomeKit support. That came out this week. Roku is adding HomeKit and AirPlay 2, some older devices. Logitech has killed off its Harmony line, which is a smart home device. And a blogger actually hooked up their Jaguar I-Pace, which is an electric vehicle, to HomeKit, which I think is just super cool. And finally, Discord is pushing out a new update to its app that's going to block not safe for work content and not safe for work communities from Apple devices. They're basically trying to lower their age rating by blocking all that content to make it just completely inaccessible on those devices. We saw a lot of response from that. It really seems like the company is trying to lower their age limit on the App Store to bring in more users, and that's kind of what led to them blocking it on iOS. But there's a lot more discussion and information on it if you just want to follow the link down in the description. So that's it. That's it, everyone. That is it. That is the first episode of This Week in Apple. A lot of stories, a good chunk of time that you guys have spent with me, and I very, very much appreciate it. You made it through. We stumbled. I said keep this in mind a whole lot as we went. But we did it. So check back next Friday, a new episode dropping with another week in Apple news. Let me know what you guys think of the new series over on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. And if you guys have any questions on the news, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to read more about any of these stories, there's links in the description.